Before we continue with what we had yesterday, I'll just share with you. Last night, I received a telephone call from a Rav in St. Louis, very upset. He said that his daughter from his first marriage went out with a boy in Eretz Yisrael. She's in Eretz Yisrael. He's in St. Louis. His daughter, who made Aliyah, went out with a boy, and they had a really good time, and they were talking. And she happened to mention that her mother was a Giyoros. And he said, "Oi, I'm a Kohen." So she said, "But why should that be a problem? You're not marrying my mother." Her mother's no longer alive. "You're marrying me. I'm the daughter of a Giyaris, and a Kohen is only also to a Giyaris, but not the daughter of a Giyaris." So the boy, the yeshiva bacher, said, "No. Rav Aaron Leib Steinman said I can't go out with a daughter of a Giyaris." So this Rav, who never heard of such a thing, called me up, very upset. How could this be? I told him the boy is half right. And if you're only half right, you should keep your mouth closed. The din is, if you look in Even HaEzer and Siman Zayin, Tzit Chaf Aleph, the Mechaber actually does paskin that if both parents are converts, a ger marries a giyaris, then lichatchila, the child, the daughter should not marry, even though mehatorah it's not a problem. It's only a giyaris that's prohibited. A giyaris is one of the 7 women that a kohen can't marry, grusha giyaris v'chulei. But the Mechaber says lichatchila they shouldn't get married. But if one parent is Jewish, like in this case, where the Rav was married, he's Jewish. He was born Jewish. He was married to a Giyaris and they had a daughter, then the Shulchan Aruch is very clear that even in Chatzima they can get married. I tell your daughter not to worry, but maybe this is not the boy for her. He's so quick to jump the gun. If he's going to say something, he should know what he's talking about. And anyway, it's just interesting interesting Shiloh. We've been talking about eating meat. The consensus of poskim seems to be not like the opinion of Taisus that we mentioned, but like the opinion of the Rambam that a person, if everything being equal, a person should try to eat meat on Yom Tov. Interestingly, the Darkei Tshuva, the Munkacher writes, in Siman Peitas, in Hilchos Basa B'Cholov, B'Zacharti Yomi Mikedem. I remember from years before, Shamati Mipi Admar Hagrin HaKodesh, Misanz, that I heard from Rav Chaim of Sanz, She'omar she'tzorich le'echol b'yom tov basa behema davka. That not even basa oif, but you should eat basa behema. The Sanza was very makbid. I happened to be just looking to see the minhagim, and I found that in the Sefer Darkei Chaim B'Shalom, the Minchas Elazar himself writes the following: Pamachas kora itzal marana bal divrei Chaim zchuso yogi nawina b'yom tov sheni shelo yoyeh basa behema. It once happened on Yom Tov Sheni that he didn't have, the Divrei Chaim, the Sanza didn't have meat. I mean, he was very upset about it. Yoshev Oz etzloi besuda echad migdei chasidov shehi v'imay bosa behema mevushal me'ir me'shavai l'tzorchai al meshech kol yimei Yom Tov. And sitting there at the table was one of his chasidim who brought with him enough meat for himself for the entire Yom Tov. V'nishalei oid ma'at erech kezayis. And he had left over that he didn't need for himself a kezayis, an olive's worth. But it wasn't nice. It's not nice to serve just a kazayis on the table. No, therefore he didn't tell the Rebbe, he didn't tell the Sanzor about this. When he saw how anguished his Rebbe was, he told him, V'yana Rav, and the Sanzor told him, Maher, kach nos ha-kazayis bosa kasher dibarto, ve'eviu what says by the chodas mitzvah simchas yom tov. Please bring me that piece of meat. So, you see how important it is to have meat. The poskim Ramesha Sternbach, Rav Avad Yosef says much shorter. He says very bekitzer in Yechavedas, Gam bezman hazeh, mitzvah min ha-Torah l'kayim mitzvah b'samachta b'chagecha, b'achilas baso v'shtiyas yayin. U'mi she'ino yochol echol baso behema, mitami brius or kashrus. If somebody doesn't have meat either because he can't find kosher meat, that could happen in various places, or because of health reasons, at least he should have chicken. Last but not least, somebody mentioned the issue about Shavuos yesterday. When I was in yeshiva, I used to say this all the time in the community that I grew up in. And then later, Moshe Feinstein wrote a tshuva about the very same thing. It's very interesting. But you ask people, why do you eat milchiks on Shavuos? They'll all give you the reason that they learned when they were in Cheder, which is that after Matan Torah, they had all the halachas of kashrus, and they didn't have anybody to shech. They didn't have anything prepared, so they could only eat milchiks. But that's not the reason brought in Shulchan Aruch. In Shulchan Aruch, there's absolutely no reason to eat milchiks except that it's derech agav. Listen to what the Ramah writes in Simin Tov Tzadi Dalet.
Only derech agav.
Menogim bechama mekoimos le'echol ma'achol licholov b'yom rishon shel Shavuos. The minhag is to eat milchiks on the first day of Shavuos. First, note that the minhag is only the first day of Shavuos. Menira li'atam. Listen to this very strange reason. Shukimayashnei tafshivin shaloichim b'leil Pesach zeichel lePesach v'zeichel leChagigo. On Pesach, we put on the Seder plate a zroya and a beitza. Why? The zroya reminds us of the special korban of the korban Pesach, and the beitza the Chagigo. And therefore on Shavuos we b'davka eat milchiks before we eat fleishiks. Why do we do that? Because if you eat a milchik meal and then a fleishik meal, you're forced to bring an extra loaf of bread to the table, because there's a din in your Yoredaya that you're not supposed to use the same loaf of bread that you use for milchiks for fleishiks. Why does that matter? So he says, just like on Pesach, we bring two things to the table to remind us of the two korbanos. So on Shavuos, we bring an extra loaf of bread to remind us of the special korban, the Shtei Alachem. So Moshe Feinstein writes, correctly so, because he says, if that's true, then those people who substitute the fleishik meal for a milchik meal haven't done what the Ramah said. They just had a milchik meal. Number one, they haven't been the kind of the mitzvah vein simcha elo bebasar yayin, and secondly, the special din of Shavuos that the Ramah, the only thing that the Ramah mentions, you can look it up in English Spation, the first chaylik in Arachayim, in the Kufs, I can't remember where. I want to say Kuf Daled. I think it's Kuf Daled, thereabouts. So this is just interesting because most people are unaware of this, and most people think that they'll have milchiks instead of fleishiks. This is the problem in our house. In the Mishnah Berurah has a whole cheshbon what you should do. You should eat milk, and you should wait a certain amount of time, and you should wash your hands. Kinuach and adacha because I'm Muslim, and all the take a walk around the block. All the good things. So that's just interesting that that's not the way people do. Those of us who follow that halacha, we try to do it. We eat a milchik meal. I think we usually wash on two challahs. My wife makes some kind of a cheesecake or something. We bench, and then an hour later we have. What ends up, I guess, to be the third meal, really, like if it's Shabbos, it could be substitute to Shabbos.
But wash again.
So some people aren't makpi to wash in between. It depends, of course, how long you're going to be.
You mean
wash again. Wash again. As we wash.
Before the
Mishnah Berurah, the Chafetz Chaim recommends that you actually make it two official meals, that you wash, you bench.
Point, you have to bring the shtei lesson.
Yeah, so that you bring.
That's
the point you should do.
Right.
And then you mentioned.
Yeah, that's what he says you should do. Not everybody does that. I didn't take a poll of what the Hasidic community does, although there's a fellow that put out a sefer, a 3-volume sefer, called Minhag Aviseinu V'Yadeinu. He has a whole arichos about all the various Hasidic courts, what they did. I didn't take a poll and look at it, but it's an interesting sefer. It lists everybody from all the way from the Baal Shem Tov down. Interesting to see what Ger and Chabad and Belz, everybody has their own thing. I just do it. I'm a simple Jew. I do what it says in Shulchan Aruch.
And the first Suda is a milchik challah?
Well, the challah itself can't be milchik. The challah itself can't be milchik.
Because we have to put a simon in the challah.
Why can't the challah itself be milchik? Because there's a special din, unless you make a different surah. There's a special din in your day. None of us make milchik bread.
Right.
You should wash.
The point is the wash.
The point of wash.
The minhag is don't have the
Cheesecake is not a life.
But you need a...
I don't know. Maybe is that already? I guess if you convey it to them, right? I don't know. It depends on the cheesecake. Not all cheesecake is lasagna. Some cheesecake is chocolate. It depends.
So an Etman's cheesecake, Etman's cheese crumb, which is OUD. Right, but that's mostly a dough with the cheese on top. Right. But even a regular cheesecake has a crumb.
It could be.
That's exactly the point. Is it designed or is it not designed?
Maybe.
We have a product sell out.
Yeah, sell out. We have to tell Usher left. We can tell him this learning.
With the quote, some quote.